All righty, welcome everybody that's joining. Excited for today's webinar. Gonna wait another minute or so just to give folks a little bit more time to come in, but hope you're all having an absolute incredible day and really excited to share our latest and greatest at Spekit here with you all. So again, I'll just wait another minute or so, let a few more folks kind of trickle in, and then we will get started. Awesome. I believe the chat is enabled on the Spekit side. If we can turn the chat on, that would be great so that folks can start introducing themselves if they'd like and meeting. Awesome. Alrighty, I will get started. So welcome everybody. So excited to have you all join this webinar. I'm really excited about unveiling today's functionality and really how it's just the start of a lot more innovation that we have coming. For those of you that I haven't met yet, I'm Melanie Fillet, co-founder and CEO at Spekit. Spekit's been a dream to build and a lot of fun, really inspired by my own challenges. Probably in many of your shoes, I managed both Salesforce at my last company and enablement, and so feel the pain on like the Salesforce and RevOps side, but also on the learning and enablement side. And really the dream was to bring kind of a solution together that would help our employees master changes more easily, learn their jobs, and ultimately focus on what they do best, which is serving your customers. And so for today's webinar, going to focus on, the quick challenges that sales reps and enablement and RevOps face while trying to drive sales rep efficiency using existing kind of solutions out there. We're going to spend quite a bit of time in the demo showcasing our new capabilities and getting you a sense of like how you could leverage it within your own company. And then we're going to spend some time talking about, how you can get the most out of recommendations and some other recent features we've launched, and then share some exciting new stuff that we have coming here over the next couple months. So with that, I'm going to jump in, right? At the end of the day, our whole inspiration for this new set of capabilities, these recommendations, was inspired by over 50 rep interviews that I did and then hundreds of others that our team did with sales reps. We really wanted to get to the bottom of like, where are they wasting the most time in their day? Right? Because as someone who has a sales team, I want my reps building pipeline, prospecting, or selling as much as possible. And the reality is, from all the research we did, turns out that reps spend over 30 minutes per day just on a given call prep. They spend another minimum 30 minutes doing call prep, doing follow-up after a call. And if you multiply that by an average of 8 to 10 calls a week, that's over 25% of their time that they're just spending preparing it. And turns out that's where they need access to content the most often, whether that's trying to get through a process after a call, or whether that's finding the collateral that they need to prepare ahead of a call, like a battle card, or share with their customers. And our friends over at Gong, which is a conversation intelligence platform, said that they found that 45% of reps forget at least one action item per week, right? Just because of how much they need to do. And so when we think about the problem, right, of reps and like how do balls drop and how do they not always find the answers they need, it starts with understanding that like from a sales rep's perspective, there's what I know as a rep, what I know about my customer and what their needs are. Then there's also what I don't know. But more importantly, there's what you don't know that you don't know, right? I didn't know that we had the perfect case study for this customer's product and services in the same industry that we could share with them. I didn't know that competitor that I'm up against in my deal recently launched new functionality, that I had an updated battle card that I didn't review, right? So there's all this change constantly. And I think the biggest fear that I have is that my reps just don't know what they needed to know going into that call. And so when we think about, traditional enablement and content solutions, the challenge is, from all their feedback, they said they just don't use content repositories. Why? Because they're spending all this time frantically searching, leaving what they're doing, app hopping, right? They often can't find what they need because it's buried deep in folders, leading to a lot of missed opportunities. They don't have the crucial knowledge that they need in that key moment, whether that's handling an objection, whether that's positioning their product in order to really deliver the value to their customer. And that leads to a lot of lost confidence, right? And ops and frustration. And that's really frustrating for reps. And so what do they end up doing? Well, I'm just going to send that thing that I saved to my desktop to my customer. And for all of us that have spent a lot of our careers creating content, Forrester came out with research showing that over 70% of content goes unused. Whether that's content that your marketing team is creating, whether that's all that process guidance that you're creating, whether that's enablement, internal resources, tons of content goes unused, not because it isn't necessarily good content, but because your reps don't know how to find it in the very moment that they need it. And that becomes a really frustrating experience for all of us that support reps, right? Where we're fighting this uphill battle to try and keep up with all the changes in the business. We're trying to learn the products so that we can support our reps on them. And we're creating all this content that kind of goes away in a graveyard because it's not getting used, which leads to a lot of wasted effort, right? We're spending a lot of time tagging and organizing content. I mean, even in Spekit, we have some of that that really slows you down in terms of where you'd like to be spending your time on more strategic initiatives. Right? It's really difficult to understand like what content is actually making a difference here with our buyers and with our reps. And then finally, you see really low adoption of a lot of your investments. And so with Spekit, our vision from day one has been to imagine a world where your reps have everything they need to excel in the very moment they need it at their fingertips, right? And just in time for us means that we meet you where you are in your tool. We understand what it is that you're doing. We recommend just what you need. And finally, that it's super simple to access, learn, share, take action, whatever it is that you're trying. And that's really this vision of just-in-time enablement that we've been building towards for the last 7 years. And so I wanted to share this quick slide because it's actually from our Series B deck. I don't think a lot of folks get to see the insides of fundraising decks, but this was actually a slide that I used to fundraise now 4 or 5 years ago. This vision for Spekit, right? And it was really this idea that Spekit becomes this unified layer for knowledge workers that sits on top of your tech stack and powers their mastery and productivity. And this vision I laid out, right, where it would like pull insights from your system, right? Like, hey, we're learning that you're competing against a competitor. This example happens to be in Salesforce. And then in real time, based on that context, we recommend information that your rep needs to know. And then finally, we actually are able to track, hey, what happened next? Did that content actually impact your performance? Did you win that deal? Did it have an impact on your learning? So right now, we're really in the second phase of this vision. We're really excited about phase 3 that's coming next. We've already got a little bit in that direction, but that's what we're ultimately building towards. But I'm really excited because what felt like, a distant dream 5 years ago of how we were going to do this is something that I'm really excited to unveil today with recommendations. And so when we think about, how do we understand a rep's needs? Like, how do we actually understand like what it is that they need in that moment? There's a few different data points that we think about, right? Who are they, right? What is their role? Are they new? Have they been at the company for 5 years? Because a new hire versus a tenured hire are going to have very different needs, right? What's their historical performance? Are they a top performer? Are they a bottom performer, right? So what is all this rep performance data that we can access in the future? What are they doing? What workflow are they in? Are they preparing for a meeting? Are they following up? Are they trying to create a quote, right? So like, what can we actually gather around? Like, what are they doing and what they need most? If they're in engagement with a customer, who is that customer? What industry are they in? What do we know about them from Salesforce or other contexts that you have? Have we sold to them before? Are they an existing customer? What context do we have on that deal? And then what are the reps' needs, right? Based off of the questions in an email or, for example, the meeting transcript. And so this is how we're really thinking about building towards this vision, because many of you use us in Salesforce, for example, where a lot of this information lives, in other places. And so the vision is, how can we leverage that information, that powerful data that you have, to ultimately guide the recommendations that we deliver to your reps? And that's really what we want to solve for, which is how can we leverage this context to deliver exactly what your reps need in the moment? And so today we're excited to share this new innovation, which is our AI-powered content recommendations, which is our first step towards really making this possible, where our Chrome extension is going to be able to read the context of a specific email or call summary and recommend the best content there without you having to search or do any sort of manual configuration, which we'll speak to in a little bit here. And this was really designed by those reps that I mentioned that we interviewed. We actually had many of them as design partners to help us actually design the user experience, one that they would actually use, because we know that there's nothing more frustrating than having a solution that doesn't get adopted. And it was really designed around like, one, how do we eliminate guesswork, right? So how do we make sure that the reps don't need to like guess and think about what they need to go find? How do we streamline their workflow, right? How do we keep them in focus in that call, in that email, and getting the task done? Because the worst thing that happens is the rep gets off a call, they know they need to do all this follow-up, but then they have another call and they're like, well, I don't have time yet, so I'll do it later today. And then later today comes and it's like, crap, it's 5 o'clock, I need to go pick up my kids. And then I'm just going to do it tomorrow. So before you know it, all this time's gone by and they still haven't followed up because the time that it was going to take them to go find all those answers was too much. And that's what we heard time and time and time again around like why there's a delay between how fast a rep wants to be following up versus when they do. And finally, fewer missed opportunities. They said that one of the things that happens is they often forget those key actions, right? They forget that key piece that they needed to follow up on or do because they just had too much on their plate. There's too much cognitive overload. And that ultimately impacts your deal cycles and more, just like we saw from that data from Gong. And so ultimately, we believe that if we can get your reps to really embrace this, it'll ultimately solve your content adoption problem too. And so how does Spekit recommendations work? Well, in this example, I'm a rep, I just got off a call, right? If you use a Chorus or a Gong or a Salesloft, for example, you might get a meeting summary. Spekit's intelligence layer is going to read that summary, and then it's going to look at all your existing content and look at other things like your engagement data, recency of content, et cetera, score that content, and then recommend it to your rep based on what best matches that context. And so with that, these first use cases that we built out based off all the interviews that we did were really focused specifically on meeting prep and follow-up. That is where we heard that reps spend the most of their time. And our goal is to give time back to reps at the end of the day so that they can focus on selling. And so we really focused on where that happens. And based off all the research, it happens both in their email and it happens in their call intelligence tools. And so that's where we started. We work in Gong, Chorus, and Salesloft. We work in Outlook and Gmail browser. And as many of you all have asked, we are expanding that to more platforms soon, including Clary and Outreach. Paul is on that list too. And then we are in the process of building our Outlook extension. We have one today. It's a bit outdated. And so we're giving it a complete new revamp so that your reps will be able to leverage Spekit inside of Outlook and easily add content to their emails or find answers to their questions. So we'll share a little bit more, but before that, I'm actually going to go into a demo for all of you. So we're going to start in Gmail here. And so here's an example of a follow-up email. I actually took a call recording that one of our reps had, and I put the follow-up inside of ChatGPT to try and generate a concise email off of that call. And based off of that, it generated this email. This happened to be a call that was focused on Salesforce training and change management. And so it generated, this guidance of how Spekit can be used in these different ways, et cetera, et cetera. And they happen to be a wealth management firm. And so they wanted a demo specifically to that. So you'll see here is that when I open the Spekit Chrome extension now, Spekit here is going to be looking at this email and recommending content specific to it. Now, I can't actually control what's showing up, so AI is doing that, a little bit of mind of its own, but we've really tailored the prompts to look for specific themes like what is the industry, competitors, what are the key pain points mentioned, any sort of like product names, and we're going to keep building on that. But what you'll see here is that the first thing is when you open the sidebar here, this is basically analyzing the full email and saying, hey, what's most likely what would be the most helpful to a rep to send? So in this instance, you're seeing that what Spekit interpreted that you're trying to do is it's recommended for simplifying onboarding and increasing user adoption. Sounds great based off of this email. And then it's recommending content here, right? Hey, here's a presentation on Spekit for Salesforce you could send, right? I can actually show you guys what that looks like. And so here as a rep, I can actually go look at this piece of content. Maybe I've never used it before. Maybe I'm not familiar. I can actually look at it right here using our new PowerPoint and PDF functionality. Of course, I can share it. If I go back to my results here, I can see that there's a few other things like a PDF brochure. It actually detected that because this is a wealth management demo and Salesforce, it actually showcased a one-pager of Spekit for Salesforce financial services customers. It highlighted a video, and you'll see here that in this UI, we're testing this right now, but based off of a lot of feedback from reps, they really want to trust it. So they want to see, is this content getting used by other people? Has it been shared a lot? And also recency. When was this last updated? So you'll see that you can actually hover over here and see specifically when it was last updated and by who. So we've really worked with reps to design this so that it has the most valuable information quickly and easily accessible. Of course, they can actually just click the share button right here to share it with their customer and create that link. So if I click Spekit here, I'll get that quick link here that I can use and share into my email. So I could say, hey, here's a wealth management demo, for example. And of course, their customer will be able to see it in a more PDF type format here. This happened to be the video I just shared. And then if I wanted to go actually more granular, one, I could just click show more here so that I can see, hey, what other information is there here? Right? So I'm seeing a bunch of other things. Or what Spekit did up here is it detected different themes here that you might want to drill down into. So for example, hey, if you just really want to focus on what content Spekit might have on financial services, that could be in industry plays, things of that sort, I could click on this and it's going to suggest other content that might be relevant here. I could click on specific things for Salesforce onboarding or budget discussions, right? Hey, do we have any sort of guidance on budget discussions? This is a great one. Hey, here's our metric spec that has guidance on specifically how to ask for questions to uncover metrics, right? So it's really meant to surface both internal enablement that your reps can review and practice, as well as external content that your teams can share. Taking another example before I go into Gong, those of you that use Outlook, it does work in Outlook browser as well. I understand that the majority of reps use Outlook desktop, which is why that's coming soon. But you will see here, in this example, I'm not actually creating a follow-up, but I just got a prospect email, right? Someone reached out, they're telling us that they're a fairly independent, large business. They've had a lot of, challenges with their Salesforce. They're doing a big cleanup of their Salesforce org, right? So there's all this information. They have a big gap. They sent me this. Again, I can simply open up Spekit here. And it's, again, going to look at this email and recommend things. So this is interesting. The first thing it recommended here is Salesforce challenges, why they need Spekit. This is internal content that we have. Let's see what else it's got here. Salesforce overview here. One of our differentiators is our Salesforce integration. So you can see content here, et cetera, et cetera. And again, if I wanted to go into more detail, I can always click here. It sounds like there was a couple different themes here that were mentioned. And I can click, let's say, data cleanup. And here I'm going to get specific content that we have related to data cleanup, such as our Salesforce data dictionary. So the whole idea here is that these themes help you drill down into more specific content that the rep can actually use or add to their email right there. The one thing to note is that this really depends on your content. So we're going to talk about the best practices, but we're going to check the themes. But the quality of the results is going to depend on the quality of your content, right? What content you have or not. And we're really excited to start surfacing some of the analytics around this to you. The goal is that you can eventually see, hey, these themes are coming up, right? But your content is scoring really low, which means that you probably don't have great matches for these themes that your reps are coming up time and time again. So let's make sure that we can help you drive what content your teams need, and you can share that with marketing and surface that to you. So that's going to come in a next phase where we surface all of this to you. But today you'll be able to see, of course, all of your reviews, data, et cetera, more shares, and we're already seeing more adoption of this content from reps that have Spekit. So again, it's meant to be very simple here. You'll see that if something isn't helpful, you have the option to say no. I'm going to say it's something that is actually not helpful. So give me a second. Okay, let's just say that this one is not relevant. I can click no, and it's going to ask me for feedback. And this is how we're eventually going to learn, like, rep preferences, what they like, what they don't like, et cetera, et cetera. At any point in time, if, AI has a mind of its own. So if it hallucinates, meaning that the results are not helpful at all, there's two reasons. One, you either don't have any content that's relevant, or you can always, as a rep, say, hey, I actually just want to refresh results here to see if Spekit has any better guess. So it's basically going to rerun and see what other content comes up. So that's how simple it is for your reps to use. There's no extra work. There's no anything you need to do. This is just now available in Spekit. The last example I'll show for those of you that use Gong and Chorus, I know many of you have worked on this with us already, so hopefully this is just validating what you wanted to see here. But you'll see that for call summaries, right, and from all the research we did, reps love going back to their call summary here after recording and reviewing this information to help guide their next step and best practices. What you'll see here is that we have the summary. There's a bunch of things that it called out. Users are inexperienced with Salesforce. It was recommended for this use case. Spekit is highly rated for ease of use. Hey, we can integrate with Salesforce, but not mobile. We don't support how we compare to this competitor, discuss licensing costs, right? There's all these key points that happened on this hour call. Again, as a rep, if I'm trying to figure out what should I respond back with in my follow-up email, what's going to drive, again, I can actually simply open up Spekit right here, and it's going to be looking at this call summary to then recommend the content that's going to be the most relevant here. So here it's saying, hey, recommended for user-friendly training and Salesforce integration. And again, I can see all of this content here that I can share and send, or I can double down on, hey, cost-effective licensing and see what kind of information we have here that's relevant to packaging. In this case, maybe our SME package, or here's a process that we have on how to create an order form that might be relevant to the rep as well. And so we're going to continue making this recommendation engine better and stronger as we start pulling in more context around like what content do your reps love, do they not like, right? As you start building out more content and use cases, and we're going to apply it to more applications, but we'd love to start getting your feedback starting today. So with that, that's what it looks like. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. It's meant to be pretty simple and straightforward. The first thing I'll say is the good news is there's no added work on your end right now, right? So there's no tagging, and this is the part that I was the most passionate about when working on this with the team. I was like, we cannot add more work to admins to have to tag and configure this for it to work. Like we need to leverage the power of AI technologies to understand the content, understand the context, and match it. And so it works as is. If you have custom fields, which we'll speak to, it also does look at that information. But as long as Spekit is enabled on those applications, it's just going to work. The biggest area for you is to make sure that you have the content that your reps need most, which I think is the goal anyway, right? And Spekit will deliver more and more value to your customers, which is your reps, as you add the best content. And so just wanted to share a couple more stats here from our friends over at Gong around why this is such valuable functionality. For context, it turns out that deals that have incomplete action items versus deals with 100% completion items have a 20% higher win rate, meaning the deal is 20% more likely to close if the rep is actually really thorough in their follow-up and what they're sharing with them. 2, there's an 18% increase in win rate, and this is analyzed across their hundreds of thousands of calls if you send tailored follow-up, meaning that you're not just sending that random one-pager or one random case study that you sent to all your customers, you're actually sending content that's relevant to what your buyer said in their email, in their call. And that's exactly what we're trying to solve for, which is, hey, as a rep, you might not know you have content that's perfect for this specific question or for this use case, but Spekit does, and we're going to surface it to you. And then finally, that there's a massive difference in the win rate and deal duration. So how long a deal takes to close and the chances of you winning if you actually follow up quickly. So if you respond within 24 hours, right, there's a huge impact on both your likelihood to win and the scope of the deal. And right now we're all trying to figure out how do we increase our win rates and how do we decrease our sales cycle length. And so this functionality is really designed around that specifically. And so the goal is really for all of you that are on the call, like 1, less content waste, right? No more creating content that never gets seen by your reps. 2, just higher content adoption, right? If you've got great content, let's make sure that people actually use it, right? How can this actually have a bigger impact on sales performance that's really all around like that efficiency and time? How do we reduce the content management burden for you? So not having to go manually tag absolutely everything. AI can do its magic for you so that you can get time back for more time on strategic initiatives. So that's really the vision here, and we're going to be announcing a lot more soon related to this. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Many of you have left G2 reviews over the last month or so. Thank you all for doing that. If you haven't yet and you're a happy customer, please do. It makes a huge impact on our business. But I also want to share a couple other quick things here that are part of this release. So the first one is the suggested themes that I highlighted. I'm actually going to go out here just to show you this. So actually it doesn't work here, but the suggested themes that I showed at the top, you'll see those there. We moved the knowledge checks to the wiki tab to get it out of that like main screen, but they'll still get the notification if they're using it. You'll see that we gave our teams drop down a refresh so that it's a lot easier to filter by team. Before we had a bunch of individual teams that was really clunky. On the recommendation, there's built-in feedback so that it's easy for them to give feedback. We added those content engagement data, right? So going back to here, we added the information that reps said they care the most about to be able to see. And what else here? Oh, and then if you haven't tried it yet, we added deduping. So we're using AI so that if you're trying to add a PDF or a deck in Spekit that already exists in Spekit or that's very, very similar, when you go to upload that file, which I'll just show you all right here, when you click file and upload, if you upload a file that already exists, you're actually going to get an error. So let me just pull one up as an example here. Let's do this. See, in this example, I just got a notification telling me, hey, a file with identical contents already exists in Spekit under a different name, right? You might result in duplicate files. And the goal here is, again, going back to governance. We're going to be doing a lot more around governance this year. How do we prevent garbage in, garbage out, right? Duplicate files, duplicate content. And so you're going to start seeing the use of AI in different parts of the product. Of course, we're going to keep with workflows as well, automated workflows, but the goal is to really keep your content as clean as possible, help you with content creation, and ensure that your reps are having the best experience possible. Now, in terms of giving feedback, right, like recommendations and AI, they're not perfect, and I'm going to set that expectation right now. But the goal is that at least every time you open it, you're seeing a few things that are immediately helpful. Now, there might be some edge cases where, hey, I mentioned this product name and I'm not seeing something really specific to this product name. And it's because it doesn't work as like an exact text match, right? It's not an advanced search. It's basically analyzing the full email and taking away what it interprets to be the most important content. And so you might not see exactly the results that you're looking for. We want to hear that because that'll help us continue to improve the AI in the background and our configurations for that. So please encourage your teams to give feedback on the recommendations. If something's helpful and they want more of it, tell them to give a yes. It's super simple. If something's not helpful and it's like, wait, why is this being recommended? Nothing here was relevant to this. Please give us a no. That way we know, hey, this wasn't helpful. And this is ultimately for your team going to help us understand, like, what does your team need? We also have additional in-app feedback where they can actually write out more feedback. It can be on the user experience. And of course, if you have questions or more feedback, you can always email the beta@spekit.co email. So now let's talk about how you can get the most out of this new functionality. So of course, we talked about sharing feedback. I'm going to talk about how you can be in the know and make sure that you know about our latest changelog and where you can see every single release. We have a new little UI update to the topics coming out soon. I'm going to talk a little bit about things that you can drive rep usage for, and I'm going to talk a little bit about content strategy. So the first thing is, as you think about, hey, I really want to be able to leverage the value of recommendations for our reps. I want to get more of our content in there. The way that I think about it, and feel free to take a screenshot, is what is it that your reps need to know, right? That can be everything from like your persona cards and messaging, call prep and scripts, product FAQs, that's a big one, objection handling, SOPs, right? Battle cards. That's kind of information they need to know, and Spekit's going to recommend that based off a call, right? And then what to share, right? So that's going to be things like your sales collateral, maybe your MSA, your NDA. It could be product collateral, like any sort of one-pager that you have on your stuff. It could be security docs, right? The example I showed was actually our COI certificate of insurance, right? The kinds of things that our reps need to send, as well as white papers, ebooks, and more. And so you really want to be thinking about, like, okay, do I have the information that reps need to know for the most common, situation they're in? And then do I have the information that they would want to share with the prospect? And this is where partnering with your marketing team, if you're not already, can be really, really valuable. And I'm going to be sharing some positive news here in the next couple slides that will make that all that much easier in terms of getting content into Spekit. As a quick reminder, templates are a really great way. If you don't have some of this content, we have great templates on our library. And we'll be sharing more soon too. But just to show you an example, if I search for templates here in Spekit, you'll see that we have a topic called sales templates. And we have all of our templates here. And what this helps is driving consistency in how the rest of your team is creating content. So that basically if someone says, hey, we want to create a buyer persona template, or we want to update something here, they can really quickly pull this up here. And here's a quick template that they can, again, simply clone and get started and have a very similar structure. So these are like small things you can do in Spekit that just make writing content a little bit easier. You can also use AI, and I actually created a spec right before here. I'm going to recreate it because it was a perfect example, but for those of you that aren't using the AI in our editor, there's really quick things you can do, like dropping a long form doc and just putting it in there using our summarize feature to just get the most important points there in bullet form. You can proofread to make sure you don't have any sort of grammatical or punctuation issues. And then you can also auto-generate or translate content. So just yesterday, we were talking about, hey, how do we, really make sure that everyone internally is clear on the different phases of our release cycle, right? We've got our design partners. These are folks that are involved early on, helping us actually design capabilities. We've got alpha programs. That's typically where you've got, us testing it and then a couple customers. We've got our beta like this, where we're opening up to a lot of customers for feedback. And then GA, general release, which is typically, for anyone in the market. And so here, if I wanted to create a quick spec on that for clarification, I can click spec here. I can click on the AI and say, hey, ask Spekit AI, please create a table with definitions on design partner versus alpha program versus beta program and GA. And again, the idea is that it will get you, a little bit of the way through so that you can then go in and add additional content as you see fit. So here it quickly created kind of a baseline for me that I can go in, I can adjust. But again, this AI functionality here can just help you create content faster. We use it for battle cards, we use it for objection handling, we use it for call scripts, you name it, there's a lot that you can do. So another quick way to build content fast. The next thing I want to make sure that everyone's aware, we shared this recently, the large majority of customers have this functionality, which is the ability to upload files and PDFs. In the next month or so, you're going to be able to add docs and Excel as well. I know many of you have been waiting for that. So again, uploading content is pretty simple. You open the Chrome extension, you click this new button, you click file, and here you can drop multiple different files. Again, it can be multiple files at once. It's going to upload all of them. You can add them all to a topic. I just uploaded all of these, and so therefore they're all duplicates, but let's forget that for this example. You can add them all to a specific topic. And then, of course, you don't want to forget our custom fields. This is great, specifically if your marketing team is involved. They love being able to categorize your content. So if you want them to be able to go do that, if you add similar content really quickly, you can bulk add, hey, what kind of content is this, right? Is this for a specific industry? Is this for a specific stage in our funnel? Is it for a specific persona? And of course, you can actually enable external sharing, which will allow your reps to actually share that and track it with your customers if they have Smart Send enabled. So add content. The biggest piece to know is that if you currently have PDFs embedded in a spec, right? So just to make sure we're all on the same page here, we have this functionality today which allows you to embed a PDF. So let's pretend I uploaded our Banklater here. The recommendations engine today does not read an embedded PDF because it's basically interpreting it just as an iframe. So if you want Spekit to be able to read this to recommend it, you do need to upload it as an individual file. So there's a few little nuances like that that can impact recommendations that you'll want to be aware of, but this is the big one. Make sure that if you have files that you want recommendations to be able to read, make sure you include it. Similar for links, right? If you have just a simple link linking to something, we can't actually read the file that you're linking to. And so if you want Spekit to be able to recommend it, we recommend, no pun intended, that you actually upload it to Spekit. And then finally, making sure that you're looking at your usage in Spekit to see, how are people adopting it? What content is the most helpful and useful? What do you want to create more of? We're continuing to make enhancements to our dashboards there. You've all given a lot of feedback and ideas, and so please continue to give that to us so that we can ultimately share that with our customers. One last quick update that I did want to share real quick. I'll just go into Spekit here. But for those of you that are using our Smart Send functionality and our share links, we have now aggregated the information here so that you can see all recent activity. So all the folks that have looked at your content. So this is if you have a piece of a PDF that your rep has shared with a customer, you can now see all recent activity of folks that have looked at it, how much time they spent on it, etc. Or you can go to each individual link here and see additional data here. And if I click on, let's say, hey, here's this AI powered, well, this takes me to the actual video, but if I click on total views, I can go into that specific piece of content and see all the analytics of who looked at that content and how long did they spend on it. And so these are the one way that we've been building out our analytics to give you more visibility into how your content's getting used, both externally as well as internally. Now, last quick thing before I share exciting roadmap items. Many of you have been asking for more guidance on how to organize your content and and guide you. And so we have an updated content strategy template here that we worked on with a few of you as helpful partners that basically help you identify different topics you might want to have. We have linked about templates for different types where it's like repetitive content, as well as different types of playbooks you might want to use. You can determine which of these topics need an order to them, who's going to own it, etc. And so if you're interested in this template, please reach out to me after this webinar and I'll send it your way. My email I will put in the chat is simply melanie@spekit.com. And then finally, we have some exciting things that are currently under construction. So the first thing is, we know content integrations is a big ask. And so I'm really excited to share that Google Drive right now is currently under construction. SharePoint's going to follow really shortly after. So we're aiming towards really end of this month to start having our alpha partners using it, and then end of July. To have our early partners, and then August is when we're hoping to get as many of our customers enrolled with our Google Drive and SharePoint integrations. That'll make it way easier for you to pull in content from SharePoint and Google Drive and ensure if that changes to your files made there are synced to Spekit, reducing the need to port over manually all your content. The Outlook integration is under construction too. This is specifically for Outlook Desktop. And then we're working on some small navigation updates. This doesn't look like much here, but the goal is to start moving a little bit away from our Spekit branding so that it feels a little bit more neutral. But really the vision that we're working towards is allowing you to create a much more custom branded experience so that Spekit feels that much more natural in your reps workflows. And so this is what's coming next after we complete this work. We're still doing quite a bit of discovery around like, what does this look like for icons and more, but we've heard you loud and clear. These are some of the top requested functionality, as well as things like version control and other items that are also on the way. And of course, surprises as well that we always work on in the background. So as a reminder, if you want to stay on the know, we're constantly releasing new capabilities. We have this new changelog here. I'll put it in the chat, but basically everything you need to know. Ooh, spotlights, actually, we just had an announcement. I will make sure to share that with you all. But you can see here absolutely everything that we've launched recently, including all the small updates. You can filter this by specific feature or topic really easily and make sure that you're staying up to date. So this is the link. I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody in case you don't have it. Ooh, and great question, Allison. I will answer that in 1 second. Before I do, I just want to share a quick update. If you look at our spotlights functionality, we just gave it a little bit of a UI update. So you'll see here that I'll just use an image to make it a little bit prettier, but you'll see that our spotlights UI and functionality got a big revamp. You'll see here now that you can use our rich text editor in spotlights, which allows you to highlight content and do a bunch of exciting things. And it's a much more streamlined workflow based off of all of your feedback on how to send to multiple teams, the button actions, the steps that you want to take to make it easier for you and your team to create spotlights. So we're continuing to make enhancements across the platform. We're working on some filtering options in the search and more, but definitely check out this latest spotlight update. If you don't see it yet in your Chrome extension, make sure that you update your Chrome extension. Awesome. So just to answer your question, Allison, thank you so much for asking about that. Salesforce is very much top of mind. We're currently working on how we can use your existing kind of field documentation to help inform recommendations. So Salesforce is very top of mind for recommendations. I don't have the exact ETA, but it is very much the next priority after this first use case of call intelligence and then emails. So we'll have an ETA probably in the next month or so as to when you'll be able to see that. We do have the ability to turn it on. So if you wanted to be an early tester of it, feel free to reach out, but it's probably not going to be optimized yet for the Salesforce experience. And so we're keeping that just for internal testing for now until we're fully confident. And then finally, if you go to our new how-to pages, I want to share this with you all. We worked on a new video series here. This is particularly helpful for your teams that are newer to Spekit. Let me see where that is. Give me 1 second. So we have our solutions page that has all of our little videos on all the different use cases. But if you go to our resources, we also have our, I might need to get help from my team on specifically what the page is. I believe it's how-to videos. Oh, there you go. How to use Spekit. where we now have a bunch of videos that we've uploaded to help with training on how you can use Spekit, right? Best practices on naming conventions, best practices on the editor, best practices on using AI, how to embed content, advanced content organization, Spekit content strategy, and how to set up your teams for success. And you'll see here that you can filter by feature, as well as like, hey, I really just want to focus on anything that's around creating content, and you'll see that here. So we're continuing to build out this library. If there are any specific guidance that you all want, best practices, please reach out to us and we'll keep adding those here as well. So with that, hopefully you all get about 20 minutes back in your day. But as a reminder, if you all have our content recommendations enabled for your org, you should have received an email from either our head of success, Larkin, or from your CSM with an email template you can use to communicate with your team. You always have the option to send a spotlight. We'll share this image with you if you'd like to announce it. And then, of course, we have our help center and how-to videos to guide you on this journey as well. So that concludes the content that I had. I'll stay back for a minute or so in case there's any additional questions, but thank you all for listening and excited to get your feedback. And if there's any user experience, results feedback that you all have, we want to hear it. We want to make it the best experience possible. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Awesome. All righty. Looks like no questions. So thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. See y'all soon. Bye-bye.